to today's live podcast interview on striking statements with Keasha Lee. And welcome to my podcast, Lifestyle with Luke Lintott, the top podcast for corporate health, wellness, and living your best life. And today I have the honor of interviewing Keasha. We actually met each other at a holiday party. We hit it off because Keisha's energy is fire. You're soon going to see. And also her vibe and the great work that she does in personal branding is instrumental. And who doesn't need help with improving and refining your brand? Keisha is a
Mm.
personal branding coach, messaging mentor, speaker, and is founder and president of Striking Statements LLCs. And in today's episode, we'll dive deep into the world of personal branding, messaging, mastery, and authentic self-expression. Keisha's embodied branding blueprint is a game changer for passionate service providers looking to get noticed, remembered, and paid. Her 18 years of experience in marketing, public relations, sales, copywriting, and personal branding will leave you inspired and ready to take your personal brand to new heights. Thank you for joining us, Keisha. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Luke, and I coach executives to get fit and loved while making money. And with all of that in mind, Keisha, I just want to give you the opportunity to introduce even more about the work that you do and your why. What brought you to this work?
Thanks. First of all, thank you for having me, Luke. I'm really excited about this conversation. So more about me, I would just say that I live what I teach and I practice what I preach. So creative self-expression is definitely a big value of mine, and it's really what I find to be my purpose. I'm a creative person. I'm multi-gifted, multi-talented, multi-passionate, and I tend to attract the same types of folks, right? That makes sense. And what I know through my career, work career, life experiences is that we all truly want to be understood and heard. But that can be a bit scary. And along the way, we probably have been conditioned to dim who we are, to stifle a bit. And so personal branding is essentially who you are and understanding how to harness those things in a way that you can use it to be a very powerful asset. So my why is that I know that we're born to feel free, to feel joyful, and I'm here to help people tap into that and make money while doing it.
That sounds like an absolute win-win. And ironically, during today's fitness and yoga class that I taught online, shout out to Monica and Tim who showed up, the focus was I trust my true self to guide me. And I know in my own experience, Keisha, like I have a before and after picture. The before picture, when I had issues with anxiety, sleep, my skin, my body, my mind, I didn't trust my true self to guide me. I wouldn't be here live speaking my truth, embracing who I am as a dancer, someone who's queer identified, someone who loves to dress up. You know, my hair is blonde, right? I'm a very creative person as well. And I've only recently, in the past couple of years, tapped into that side of me. As you mentioned before, I was one of those people that watered myself down to be liked by a lot of people, loved by
Mm-hmm.
few, right? And so I'm curious to know more about that background as we're in this time of doing and connecting with who and what you love and
Mm-hmm.
doing less of what you like, right? Because those things that we like sometimes
Right.
pull us away from the long-term love. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your perspective on any of that.
Yeah. So I guess, it's determining, like, what are we liking? Is it the work that we're doing to pay the bills? It's fitting in and keeping up a persona. I love what you said, that has kept us feeling accepted and included. I mean, we do want that, but I feel there's great power and liberation and deciding that you are going to choose to bring forth and tap into and accept. A lot of this is about self-acceptance, okay? Because my definition of personal branding is it's the art of teaching others how to perceive you, okay? Personal branding is the art of teaching others how to perceive you. But in order to be effective, you have to determine and have clarity on how you see yourself. And so I would say, when it goes to your question of liking and loving, explore, take a playful approach to exploring the things that really light you up, the things that you do that are like, I could do this like all the time, right? Even if it's not something that's going to make you money in the period of time. It's about going toward the things that give you life force energy. And you mentioned being creative. I'm a creative. I believe everyone has the capacity for creativity. It doesn't mean that you have to be the best painter, or musician. Creativity looks however it looks for you. It can look like cooking a beautiful meal. It can look like making a beautiful garden, creating an awesome course or a space for people to convene and be in community. Community creativity is life force energy. So whatever it is that brings you life and gives you life, then you're on the right path of self-discovery and feeling free and joyful.
Amazing. And I know a short way of explaining it to folks out there is if it energizes you, do more of it. If it doesn't energize you, we need to find a way to do less of it or make it something that you can enjoy. Maybe you're going to play music, maybe you're going to do a little dance before you have to do your taxes, okay? Because some things we do have to do that we don't want to do, right? But number
Yeah.
two, I wanted to touch base, and I actually heard this in a podcast episode with Jay Shetty. They did research on not just the wealthiest people out there, but also the healthiest, right? And I'm a strong believer, what's the point of having all of these physical things if you're not healthy
Mhm.
and happy and living your purpose? Because we see it over
Right.
and over and over again, right? There's that famous quote from Jim Carrey, I wish that everyone could be famous and rich so that they could see that that's not the answer, right? It's so much deeper than that. Living your expressed life is what can create that true happiness, right? And living your truth, your purpose. And I'm curious, so like in the interview, they did research and they found that the healthiest and wealthiest people actually spend 80% of their time in their zone of genius, 10% of their time in their average zone, things that they're okay at it, 10% of their time in the things that they dislike, right? That are just don't that might drain them, but yes, they have to do their taxes or whatever it is. And I know some people out there love doing their taxes, right? And that's why we get help for things that maybe if those of us that are creatives might not necessarily desire to do so much. And with that in mind, for people out there that are making that pivot, they're like, I'm working towards both. What are some first steps they can take to get into alignment?
Hmm. So when you're saying they're working toward both, can you express what that means? Working toward.
With those people that are working towards A, getting healthy, and B, getting wealthy. So their personal brand is embracing who they truly are and they're in their zone of genius, as opposed to compromising and going towards, that image in terms of branding that we see with so many people with millions of followers, but then behind the screen, they're not doing so hot. I know that's a
Yeah.
loaded question, but I just want to
Yeah.
hear your perspective. Yeah.
I feel it starts with getting clear on what you stand for. Okay. And so I created this it's called the I Stand Manifesto. Um, we have ideas, the people I work with, I mean, we have a pretty good idea of what's important to us, but going through this practice of making a declaration of what you stand for is really powerful, like literally putting pen to paper, because it activates an energy, of intention. So some of my I stand declarations, I'll share some of mine, and then I'll speak to why this kind of comes together and what we're talking about. I stand for creativity. I stand for collective healing. I stand for kindness. I stand for being self-made. I stand for clear and direct communication. I stand for love. Um, and so these aspects of me, what I'm just declared, what I just said I stand for, are very evident in how I live my life on the day to day and the kinds of activities I am involved in. Being clear on them and remembering them will help you determine what is a no and what is a yes. I want more of this, because you're looking at, okay, this is what I say I stand for. Am I in alignment in terms of my patterns, in terms of my behaviors with what I say I stand for? It's like that North Star. So if people are looking, for ways of just again, attuning more to authentically to themselves, then starting with that is a good way of getting there in a simple way too. Simple exercise.
So true. There's something therapeutic about writing things down, especially in this new world we're in where there's instant gratification, right? Even when we're typing things, right? We can type 100 words a minute or
Mhm.
whatever it is. And I 100% agree. Pen to paper does wonders. I want to add on top of that, speaking with someone, right? Human beings, that's why people like us are out there. And of course, friends, family, chosen family beyond.
Mhm.
Also, I want to just mention like we're in this time of embodying what you are doing, right? So it used to be, this is something you saw a lot in the 90s, at least that I've noticed, and in the early 2000s. You could at work be one person, at home be a different person, and then on the down low be someone totally different, right? It was like, and now we're in this time, not to go too deep into that, but you're really like, it's okay to be all of those people in both
Mm.
in many spheres, right? And in fact, that's why people tend to connect with other people is because of you, whether it's business, it's love, right? Especially in relationship. I know
Mhm.
we're doing some love manifestation work with a lot of clients in relationship. It's important to be true to who you are because you know, if you put all that energy into creating a facade on who you are, eventually those walls come crashing down. And you see it over and over. And I'm curious for your perspective on any of that, but also some tips and clues and tricks for people that are desiring to dip their toe into embodying who they really truly authentically are in all spheres. Like what are some first
Mhm.
steps they can take?
Yeah. So it's really about who you choose to be, right? Who you're being.
Mhm.
And a good question is to ask is, how do I want to be remembered? Um, how do I want people to feel with any interaction with me, whether it's online or in person, whether you're walking your cat or you're going to a dinner or
Mhm.
hosting a workshop, right? So it's that is one way. And if you're still like, okay, all right, to talk and touch on what you're saying about, gosh, there's different facets to us. We are complex in our humanity, right? We're not just one thing. And this is one of the things that I help my clients with. I give the example of the real estate agent who happens to be a great photographer. So their weekend thing is taking pictures of birds and nature. And they're also a certified Reiki master because energy work is very important to them. This is a real profile. I recently met somebody who was like, wait a minute, you're talking about me. So like that's an example, right? The multi talents and interests. How do we embody that? Well, we're already doing it because it's something that we're interested in. How do you talk about it? How do you incorporate that? Well, I would lead with the core the core thread in terms of the values. Like why are you interested? You like nature, you like beauty, you enjoy working with people because you're a real estate agent and helping them, right? The Reiki energy aspect comes into play because perhaps you needed some healing and you came across it and you thought, wow, this is life changing. I want to learn this so that I can support others in that. And hey, you could do Reiki with your clients with real estate. You could
Yeah.
gift them with postcards with your beautiful pictures of birds or natures or scenes, right? Like all of these things is a part of you. It's about you bringing yourself into the space versus molding yourself to the space. Now I know it can be tricky when we're working in certain corporate spaces or organizational spaces, and that is where we look where the values of the company and our personal values complement. Look for the ones where you can find the most alignment and rock with that baby, right? Because we've got to
Yes.
look where energy goes, it flows. What you focus on expands. So you got to look for those things, those glimmers where you're like, okay, I can jive with this because this is it is a part of who I am. But you can create so much in the spaces that you bring yourself to. So I said a lot, but that's a way to get going.
So powerful. And I want to say, like, I work with companies like Lotus Luna that I totally vibe with. And then there are also companies that I don't vibe with, right? They just are not an energetic match, and that's okay. And that actually segues into what I was just scribbling down on my paper, and that's really about when there is not a match, right? There is you know what, in my last interview with Reese, she called a mismatch. Maybe we match at first. I'm like, uh-oh, no, no, no. We just uncovered some really irreconcilable differences, whether it is in love, it's in business, it's whatever
Mhm.
with what you're doing in life. And I'm
Mhm.
curious, especially in this time of visibility in your personal brand and what you do, who you are. And I mean, I can even speak for myself because when I'm posting things, my childhood friends are seeing it, all my family seeing it, including people that say they don't have a Facebook account or whatever. They're still seeing it. You know, we have the people that secretly watch it. And
Yeah.
and then, so I know for me in my own experience, it's been about that energetic work, like in what we do when you work with me, like doing the hypnosis on cord cutting, doing the ceremonies, right? Doing protection spells, right? If that's necessary. And even in the three-dimensional world, deleting comments, not engaging with negative comments that are just not aligned with me as a coach or with whoever I'm supporting, right? As opposed to, I know before I did this healing work, Keisha, I spent all of my energy on the 1 or 2% of people that were what I would call the trolls, right? They were waiting, trying to mess with me. Now it's like I really make it a focus to focus on the 98%, the people that are like, yes, yes, yes. For those people that are struggling with those toxic ties, whether they are family, they are followers, they are even coworkers, what are some energetic, what are some actual three-dimensional things people can do to protect their energy, the most valuable thing that you have?
Mm. Mm. And this does take support, but I would say the best way to start is to, yeah, get in, make sure you have space. Create space where you can be alone with your thoughts, where you can hit pause on distractions and chaos, and whether it's going for a walk, um, even using YouTube and putting on some binary beats, or something that can create a soothing environment for yourself, because self-love and self-care comes down to us, like, learning to reparent, to nurture ourselves. So you got to give yourself that space away. And then the second thing would be, my suggestion is to focus on your breathing, and like deep breathing, and then either journaling, or again, guided meditations, journaling out like how you feel, how you want to feel. I am statements are really, really powerful. Um, and repeating that, life is a practice. To acquire mastery, we got to do stuff over and over and over again. Yoga is a practice, right? That's what's called a practice. It's never a one and done. And so I think a part of the work is finding the thing that feels best for you. And these things don't have to be a long time. You don't have to do things in a long time. You could even, if you need to do a quick reset, you can do some alternate nostril breathing. In through the left nostril, out through the right, and do that for a series of, I don't know, 3 to 7 times, and reset yourself. It's about honoring and understanding our own energy, and being able to replenish, refocus, and even know when to pull in our own energy, right?
So true, refocus. And I know, just to give another example, like I have a letting go hypnosis. That one has done wonders in empowering me to like just release control of other
Mhm.
people. No matter what we do, how many hours we meditate, we cannot control even like the weather. It's raining here in San Diego. We can't control what other people say, what they think, but we can control how we react. Right. And so that's why this mindfulness, the great work you're talking about, is so important now more than ever, as we are in the most distracted time in human history. And that kind of goes back to another question I wanted to bring up to you, and it's that we are humans, right? We, no matter what we do, especially in terms of branding, in terms of who we are, whether it is exploring and discovering who you are. I know I work with a lot of people who are embracing their beautiful self, and in turn, the side effects of that, of course, are the health. The side effects of that are the wealth and the love, right? When you love yourself, that's when the soulmate comes, right? What about for when people fuck up? When they make a mistake, and I know I'm not a
Mhm.
saint, right? There are things that I posted or said or done that I've deleted, right? That I've definitely made amends, whatever, what have you. And that's how I've learned, right? If I were playing small and I waited until everything with my podcast was perfect, I'd be waiting a long time. I probably would never even have launched my podcast, let's be real. So I'm curious for the people that are struggling with that perfectionism in
Oh.
terms of their branding. Oh wait, I'm gonna wait until blank.
Mhm.
Or B, oh my God, I'm gonna stop doing anything because I said or I did or I, thought something I shouldn't have. Self-sabotage. What advice would you give to those people out there?
There's something that I speak to in my program. It's called the art of minding your own business. Okay. So on two levels, and this addresses exactly what you're saying. The perfectionism, the holding back, or the gosh, overthinking and just self-criticism for when you do mess up, fuck up. I mean, we all do. We're human. I think being okay, and the quicker that you can just like keep it going and, post again, post something different, or even, hey, you know what? I think even address it if that's something that you really feel in your heart. I said this. I think some people interpreted it a different way. I meant to, I really meant it this way. I'm really sorry if I did offend anybody. And then sometimes it's like, fuck it. I said what I said. So again, it's kind of like when going to minding your business, and I'll explore that because you're like, wait, what's minding your own business? The art of minding your own business relates to this because um, when you aren't minding your own business, when you aren't focused on what you're creating, on your unique experience and gift, to the world, then you get distracted. So when you're busy observing and consuming what other people are doing or thinking about what other people might be saying versus creating, then that's when you get really stuck. And so the art of minding your own business is really minding your thoughts, minding what you allow in, right? Who you follow, what blogs what podcasts you're listening to, what kind of shows you watch, what kinds of foods you're eating, what kinds of activities that you are partaking in. When you're mindful of those things, then you can attune to what it is that you're here to do and have more fun and have more trust that nobody is perfect. Nobody. This whole journey in life is about learning and growing. And along with that, you're going to make mistakes. And if you didn't have the opportunity, first of all, that shows that you're doing something, right? You're actually living. If you're putting yourself in a situation to fail, good for you. You're actually putting yourself out there. You're doing something. You want to feel because we're here to feel and to feel life. And with that comes heartache. With that comes risk of being, hurt or betrayed, but also of feeling magic and bliss in freedom and expression. So it's like, what are you willing to do? The more that you're willing to step out there, yeah, the more potential for mistakes, but all of those are lessons to learn and to grow and to help you. Yeah.
Wow, but that's so powerful. So many thoughts keep coming up. Like, I think of all of this as done is better than perfect. So if you are
Mhm.
a recovering perfectionist in whatever you're manifesting, write down perfect and cross it out because it ain't never gonna happen. And also, perfect is boring. Imperfection
Mhm.
is where we get art. That's where a lot of the best beat work has come to fruition. And I know in my own experience, having worked with and collaborated with people that are very visible, that have millions of followers, that are CEOs, that are killing it in their business. I wrote down like, this whole thing that's happening now of this like cancel culture that a lot of people are experiencing, where they mess up once something big, right? And it gets blown out of proportion a lot of times, and then they get canceled. Kind of like that human is a gym membership, right? And you're seeing it, of
Mm,
course, with really big people, but you also seeing it with people in the family or people that
mm.
are, in an organization. And I'm curious, like, how do we bridge the gap in this time of extremes, in this times of separation? How can we, in terms of branding and beyond, really like bridge the gap and come together and make amends after something that happened and grow stronger from it?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just admitting that, I messed up. Something that goes along with that cancel culture, especially with bigger names, right? Yeah, there's been instances where I have felt that they have felt forced to apologize just for giving lip service to the public apology, just to let's move on. I feel like when we can extend kindness, right? I stand for kindness. When we can extend kindness and compassion to ourselves, then we're better able to extend that to others when others mess up, right? It's like this cycle of projections and reflections of as within, it is without, as above, so below. The more critical and hyper focused we are on being perfect, and then when we mess up and beating ourselves up, how do you think that that's showing up and how we react to other people when they make a mistake, right? So I feel like we need healing, and it starts with us. That is a good way of starting with helping others recuperate. And then just being really honest with yourself, with ourselves. I want to speak to authenticity because personal branding, being authentic, showing up, and that's a lot. That goes hand in hand. You hear that a lot. Um, and I shared a reel about this recently that part of authenticity that I don't feel like gets talked about a lot is the aspect of being radically honest with ourselves, looking at our wounds, recognizing our triggers, even our own red flags, because yes, honey, we have our own,
Oh, yes.
right? Like, yeah. And owning that. And along with that, doing the work of, making better choices, using hypnosis, using different modalities to support us in our healing journey. But when we get to that place when we're accepting and we're looking at ourselves with graciousness and also recognizing we are masterpieces in progress, we are works in progress, that when we embody that, all of who we are, the shadows, the light, right? Then that's how we can go out into the world in an authentic way. It's not only about saying things that feel good or doing certain actions that look good. It's also about what you're doing behind the scenes when it comes to the most important relationship that you ever gonna have, and that's between you and you.
That's beautiful. I 100% agree. I have so many thoughts coming up. We're on such similar wavelengths, but different, of course. Like, so there's this whole idea that society says be your authentic self, but not like that. Right. So then there's
Mhm.
this idea like certain people are praised for being quote unquote authentic, and other people don't, maybe told like, oh, that's not okay. And so I'm curious. I know in my own experience, it's been about moving beyond how many likes I get, comments, all this stuff. And once again, thinking of that relationship with myself and doing this work as a act of service. That's my why behind all the great things that I do, whether it is in business, but also, in love, being true to who I am and showing who I truly am. For those of you that are calling in love this year, and in terms of like being your authentic self, I wanted to hear more on your perspective. And I actually read this somewhere about, it was about trust, like building trust with other people out there, and of course with yourself. And in order for you to build true trust with another human being, they need to see you happy, sad, angry, upset. Like they need to see you in every single emotion. And I know now in this online world, I know personally, as someone who has my master's in counseling and I've studied, advertising and all this stuff, the brain remembers, and you see this with children, right? When we're counseling children, the brain remembers negativity 8 times more powerfully than something positive. And so that's why you see with advertising, a lot of the times it will focus on the negative stuff that will get you to take action, right? And that can affect your mental health too. So like I know like a lot of people, it's like a lot of negativity. They're scrolling and then they're like, oh, screw this. I have so many friends who are deactivating their accounts right now because of that,
Mm,
right? And I desire, of course, to be a light. A lot of people desire to like show positivity. And it's
mm.
important to have that trust to show when we are
Yeah.
angry, when we are upset, when we fucked up. And so I'm curious for the people out there that are desiring to show all aspects of who they are, not just the sunshine in the morning. What steps would you recommend taking so that we are still adding light as opposed to adding to that ranting that sometimes takes away the beauty of social media?
Yeah, I would look at it. I don't know the word small doses come to me, you know.
Oh,
So
yes.
I will get small doses. So over the weekend, I set a goal. I was like promoting, you know this, I was promoting some personal branding audits, right? And I set a goal to do it by the end of the weekend. Saturday was great. And then Sunday I just hit a wall and I was disappointed because I didn't meet exactly what I wanted. Things turned around. But what I did was, and there were other things too, because when you, one thing kind of doesn't go well, and then you're like, start looking at the other things that you're like not feeling great about, right? Whether it's a relationship or it's something else, and the brain just goes on that track. It's just what it does. And so I let myself cry, and
Yes.
I let myself cry and feel my feelings. And I even did a short reel. And the reel was not like, oh my God, I hate life right now. If you wanted to do that, that's fine. But I take a more of an empowered vulnerability approach, empowered vulnerability, which is you feel your stuff and share it from the place of having given it space, having given time to process it, so that you can give something that can be of value, not only in being authentic to what you're feeling in the moment or what you felt in the moment, but also something that the audience, people watching, can take away for reflection for themselves. And in most cases, something that leaves them on a note of, I never thought of it that way, or a way for them to, something that's of value to their lives. So what I did was I created a reel and I just did my breathing and I said, this is me surrendering. And I did a
Yes.
caption that said, yes, I shed some tears today, not about any one thing, but about several things. And just breathed on the reel and said, you know what? Sometimes when things don't look the way you want or think it should, it always works out and it's okay. And that's literally the talk, my self-talk and talk to whoever was listening. But in that moment, yes, I had shed my tears and I was not at my highest moment, but I still had something to say because I was doing the work of surrendering. And then the next day I have 5 people sign up. So, hey, you know what? That's small doses of an example of what you can do to share a bit. So that's an example of, hey, I'm not feeling so great and sunshiny. And this is an aspect of my humanity, of all of our humanity.
Definitely. I love that really sounds like it made you sound superhuman and connect, and I'm so happy 5 people signed up. Congratulations. So I know in my
Yeah.
own experience, and I actually posted this on Instagram and on Facebook, I got a DM this one time that kind of shook me up, and it was from one of my followers, and he went on a tirade. It was like probably a page long about how my content was toxic positivity, and he told me to stop doing so much gay shit, like positive gay shit that's
Mm,
stereotypical. And I took it really personally because, and I posted it. And I remember I got so much love because a lot of people will be getting DMs like that they're not necessarily going to be posting online, right? And sharing and kind of connecting with people like, hey, we be getting some haters out there. And I did have someone comment, Luke, don't post that. You're better than that, right? Like people like once again like shifting like you shouldn't be allowed to share like what's really going on behind your DMs. And so like
mhm.
I'm curious for the folks out there that are really wanting to really like show that authenticity, and they're also recognizing like, okay, not everyone's going to vibe with showing this authenticity. Like what protections do you do for your vibe so that you really show up and share what you're really going through or went through, and you're you're still being true to who you are, right? While you're protecting your vibe, right? From other people's energy that just don't vibe with it.
Mhm. What
Yeah.
I do, what I do, and what I share as well. So speaking of the sharing, and just so you know, my background is copywriting and messaging and words. And so I am very, even before becoming a Kundalini yoga teacher and being so into energy and spirituality, was already tapped in to the power of how you're feeling when you're creating something, the
Mm,
intention that you set as you are in the process, of creating, and then when you hit publish. Okay. So what I do is I know, like this message is meant for somebody to hear. I don't care if 10 people see it or like it or 200 people. If the one person gets this
yes.
and can use this medicine, then I've done my work. And actually, doing this is actually my own medicine. So, guess what? I'm sharing from a place of from my heart. I'm going to keep it as real as I can. And whoever likes it, the people who are going to see it are meant to see it. And whether they're going to be people who are like, oh my gosh, how did you know I was feeling this? And then those who don't, then they don't. It's so funny when people, even when people proclaim, I'm not for everybody, I'm like, no shit, you're not supposed to be for everybody. Like that's a given. So again, taking authority of your energy, of your actions, and saying, this is meant for specific people. And those are the people who are my people. And I'm sending this out with my energy, with my intention, that it lands with who is meant to see it and forget the rest. It's out of my hands.
I
Literally.
love that. It's
Uh-huh.
out of your hands, right? And I know for me, of course, I celebrate like on TikTok, I just broke 1,000 followers, right? But I also celebrate those that unfollow, right? Who are just don't vibe with me, and a blocking is a blessing. So I know for me, when I've shifted how I look at this, because when someone leaves whatever the movement, what I'm doing, they can go on, or whether it's love, right? Once again, it's that health journey, having healthy relationships. When they move on and we break that cord, they're able to flutter off and find someone that is a soulmate match, as opposed to someone that they just kind of like, or someone that they like when they're unhealed. I know in my own experience, there's a lot of people that I vibe with before I did this healing work, worked on my body, mind, spirit, soul, life. Now we don't
Yeah.
vibe anymore because they're still in that past self, and a lot, and some people do miss the old me, but I'm focusing on who I am now and who I'm becoming while loving all of myself, right? With
Yeah.
that in mind, I'm curious, like I want to go deeper into into the world of doing and attracting what you love rather than what you like. And right, we see that also in terms of those of you that are on this living your best life journey. If you're constantly buying things online that Amazon recommends to you that you kind of like, at the end of the year or prior, these things that kind of make you feel for the short term, maybe it's sugar, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's scrolling on TikTok, okay? If you're going for those things that you like, you're postponing what you love. You're not going on dates, you're not necessarily focusing on your purpose, you're not necessarily doing coaching, what have you. So how
Mhm.
for when people in terms of what you do branding beyond, how can
Mhm.
what are some shifts people can make towards that love part of life of branding beyond?
Yeah. And making that space for that a true alignment, essentially, right?
Yes.
What you're saying. Mm. I really feel like boundaries. I've been told by friends, by folks who's just seen me online that Keisha, you're really good at boundaries. Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, um, it's taken practice. Um, but listen, we're going to come to certain situations in life, most definitely, where we can either allow things to go, and we probably, because we've been in the situation and the universe has given us another opportunity to make a different choice, to say, look, I can dishonor what is really in my heart to ensure that you feel comfortable with me and that you still like me and accept me. Or I can choose to say no. You know what? my intuition and heart and what I set, what my intention is to do different. And I don't really want to allow this anymore. So this could, this could be a food choice. This could be a choice in a romantic partner or patterns. It could be of many things, right? But deciding, it really comes to a decision and sticking with that choice to say no. I know now this is another opportunity. Once again, I can either say yes or I can say no, thank you. And I'm going to say no, thank you, because at the end of the day, I have to deal with me, right? And my self-loathing or guilt or chastising, knowing that I abandoned myself and went against what I had already said. It's kind of like that Paolo, the Four Agreements, Paolo Coelho, right? And
Yeah.
it's about keeping your word to yourself. Um, I remember when I first saw that first agreement, and I'm like, or keeping your word, right? Keeping your word. And I'm like, I do that. I do a pretty good job of that. I've got integrity. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'll do it. And if I can't, I'll communicate and things like that. But then when I read it, it was like, really, it's not about yourself, keeping your words to yourself. There's so much other people don't know. We make promises, agreements with ourselves all the time. I'm gonna get up at 6 a.m. and work out tomorrow. I'm gonna drink more water. I'm gonna read however many books. Now, again, giving ourselves some grace if we don't get to do those exact things. But when we don't follow through, I'm not going to allow myself to be taken advantage of by this person again. I'm not going to overcommit once again and then feel really like overwhelmed and exhausted so that I can't go to my yoga class, that kind of thing. Um, I feel like that's the way of understanding and upholding and protecting ourselves and our energy. And I kind of feel like I lost the gist of the question, but
Yeah.
hopefully I
And
answered the question.
yeah, energy is everything. And that segues into the next questions I have for you. And they really have to do with getting into flow state. And I've noticed with my clients, with myself, that all these things come together, right? Like it's like you put in all this work and you're like, oh my God, I'm not getting, it's not working. And boom, get a bunch of clients DMing you randomly. Boom, that's when you gain some muscle, you get some results in your body right after a plateau. And I know when you work with me, we have changes in your lifestyle, not just a quick 5-day detox, right? We that's why when you work with me, it's for 6 months, right? It's the hypnosis. We're doing changes, of course, in your diet and in your movement and spirit beyond. I'm curious for people that desire to get into flow, since we know that's where success meets no resistance. What are some steps they can take to really brand themselves well and call in that money, call in the health, the wealth, the love, healing?
Yeah, so there are three areas that I focus on. It's really on the self-image. Again, aligning, um, first of all, getting clarity on what you want and why you want it. Yeah, do you want to be known as a go-to expert in your realm? Do you want to attract more high visibility, amazing opportunities with specific organizations, and brands? Do you want to go for and attract a certain kind of clientele? Getting clear and then aligning with self-belief determines everything. What you believe about yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you see yourself determines everything. So that's a place to start. Then it's uncovering your it factor. So again, what is that thing that only I can do in the way that I can do it, right? Like what makes me like super magnetic so that people actually take notice? They might not know exactly what it is, but it's something about the energy and that unapologetic way of showing up and being that is very attractive. Because as we touched on, a lot of people don't actually do that or understand how to allow themselves to do that or start. And then the third is having clarity in your messaging. Like you can have the most amazing offer and do God's work, like which is an iteration of what we do. But if you're not able to convey in a simplified, compelling, connective way, then that's gonna go over people's heads. So there are like three areas that when you get a good gauge on these things, then that allows you to move into flow. And ultimately, how you feel about what you're talking about, how you feel about just having that clarity in the steps of presenting yourself. When you feel great about knowing that you know your it factor, and that's going to lead the way, that helps you go into flow. And that's when people actually start coming to you.
So beautiful, yes. And I wanted to say that flow is a science and it is an art, right? And it's all about your perspective. And so it's critical that yes, you do your meditations, yes, you do your workouts, yes, you do like all these great things you're talking about. And when you don't do everything because you have life happen, right? That you don't beat yourself up, right? And self-sabotage and boomerang back to just not doing it at all. So I wanted to
Mhm,
emphasize doing something is better than nothing, and
mhm,
also, in terms of like if when you're calling in soulmate clients,
mhm,
your soulmate, okay, loving yourself, life is
mhm,
not a job interview. So I just want to
mhm,
emphasize like it's good to have clarity and to write down like in terms of like what your vision is, what you're manifesting, and like who you're calling in, like that checklist, all those great things. And it's important to feel the energy, right? Maybe some
mhm,
client or partner doesn't have all the check boxes that you thought that you wanted 6 months ago, but you can just feel like, oh my God, this feels so good. I like this.
mhm,
So I just wanted to really emphasize, of course, in addition, and I'm sure this is part of that framework, is like that intuitive side. That's why it's so important for you to be mindful and to really like listen to that energy. Because I can say that the best relationships, love, business, beyond have happened through being true to who I am, listening to that energy and listening to that life force. I don't know if you have any perspective on that too, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, my program is called Embody Your Brand. And so yes, with the steps, that the foundational work that I mentioned, there's some exercises that totally blow your mind. Like, oh, you know what? I was feeling like that I was too much all this time, and that wasn't something I should amplify. But now we're going through this process of looking at like my it factor. And if I
Mhm.
know how to harness it with my energy and feeling and way of being, then that is really powerful. But absolutely, we can only get so far with thinking. It is absolutely true that we must feel the feelings, conjure that way of being now. So you get clear on like the kind of the person you want to be and what you want to have. But in order to expedite that process, then how would that person wake up? How does this person respond versus react? How would you, if it wasn't even an issue and you were already there, then how would it feel, baby? You can't wait to be happy for the prize. You gotta be joyful and accepting and enthusiastic as life, happens now, because that's a part of the journey and that's what's going to get you there. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. It's feeling.
That's that's so huge. And I love how you incorporate that it factor, right? Another way I think of that is your unfair advantage. What makes you you? I know for me, it's even been my quirkiness, has been my ability to communicate clearly, my ability to dance, right? My charisma. Like, so all these things. And it's funny, Keisha, because before I started working with living, breathing coaches, I actually hid my it factor. I thought, there's
Mm,
something called the crime of outshining. So, like, I remember when I
mhm.
was really good at dancing, really good at speaking, I actually got made fun of it when I was in middle school. So I kind of like hit it. And I think back, it all depends on your experience growing up, where you grew up, I have friends who went to performing arts schools that were completely embraced and they were on Broadway, right? And so like I'm curious for the people that are out there that are like, ooh, I know I have something that makes me beautifully different, and I know it's my it factor, but I haven't shared it with no one but me. Or maybe it's something I got, that I've learned to not let it shine too bright because it makes people jealous. Like, tell me more about the approach people can take with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once you identify, uncover it, and there's a couple of exercises I do. One of them is that practice of where's your too muchness? Where has that shown up? When have you been told that? And then looking at, okay, well, now, because typically the things that stick with us when it comes to shining too bright, people rejecting us, people getting jealous because of our light, happens in earlier years, right? And oftentimes from those close to us, whether it's in our families or organizations, educational, religious, spiritual, it happens, right? And so looking at recognizing where you've been told you've been too much, but also exploring like right now, how has that actually been of benefit? How do those qualities support me in navigating life in a unique way? Another way of exploring the it factor is to ask or to consider what I call trends and feedback. So when something's trending, it's like a thing that a vast majority of people are talking about or doing, right? And so if you can look at, gosh, in circumstances, whether it's from clients, friends, loved ones, colleagues, what do you hear most often, about what you do in an awesome way? Like, oh my gosh, you are so damn witty. You are so hilarious. How are you so quick-witted? It makes everyone laugh. You put people at ease. Maybe you have this tenacity or this way of breaking down complex ideas and things um, into information that we can easily understand. Like you're really good at that. Whatever it might be, start to be the researcher of your own experience. And hey, you could even ask some folks close to you, what do you feel like when I show up? Like what comes with me? Like what shows up when I do? What are the top three verbs you would use to describe me? That kind of thing. And then from there, you can start to play on that. You can start to um, emphasize it in certain ways. And little by little, right? You could start again, it's like an experiment. Now that you have this new knowledge, this new perspective of things, let's try it on and see how it works in this circumstance. Maybe it's on this client call, or maybe it's at this networking event. Or maybe I'm going to add a little zhuzh to the reel that I create. It's up to you, but that's how you start.
Excellent. I've noticed for me that real growth has happened when I've gotten out of my lane and also so like when I've really gone against the grain, right? And almost in a sense bended some of the rules, right? So I know it used to be that you would just follow the rules and things would work out great, right? And I know for me it's about finding that creative way to get to that desire, whether it is love, it's health beyond. And number two, I wanted to add that if you have limiting beliefs, and that's something we work on when you work with me, we place them into your subconscious mind, your 95% of your mind, your childhood brain during hypnosis. It's important to write those down and illuminate them because sometimes they're blind spots, they're hidden, right? You don't even realize that you're holding yourself back. And I know for me personally, just give an example, I flipped I'm weird. This is like wait a couple years ago to I'm special and quirky. Right now,
Mm.
I love that. That's a positive connotation as opposed to the negative connotation, right? It's all about how you look at this gift that you have. And really, we're in this time where being different, being you is that's the gem of it all. And once again, I know it depends on where you live geographically. It depends on like
Mhm.
what business you're working at. And so, we're mindful of that as coaches, right? We are so aware that there's not a one size fits all approach. And
Right.
I'm just curious, like, of course, if you have any perspective on any of that, I wanted to mention too, where there is a will, there is a way. Through doing this mindset work, I had a lot of limiting beliefs in regards to me living my purpose. And I'm so glad that
Mhm.
I addressed those beliefs, right? And I didn't do it alone. But I'm curious, like anything coming up for you as we come to the end of all this?
Yeah. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say, yeah, it is all so much in terms of this personal brand and using it as a powerful asset. It's again about just unlearning, exploring a lot of self-exploration, and having an attitude of approaching the way you're showing up, the things you share in a lighter way. like there's so much already that we feel obligated, demands for. We're again, we can see what other people are doing. So you might feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have that creativity or, that beauty or those editing skills, whatever the story is. There's going to be an audience for you that's going to appreciate exactly what you have to offer in the way that you offer it, but they will never know if you don't take the steps to share. And that's the determining factor. You are the ed factor. Even as you're continuing to explore and uncover it, you are the ed factor. So,
I couldn't agree more. And Keisha, when you said attitude, it reminded me that all of this starts with your emotions, right? So even if you
mhm,
say the words, you say the affirmations, you take the actions, if everything starts with how you feel, right? So if I feel good, like you're saying, that energy is feeling good when I take those actions, that's going to, so that feelings go to the thoughts, go to the words, go
mhm,
to the actions, create your life. So like, I know we go deeper into that when you work with me in wellness beyond, into really feeling even better, right? And attracting those desires sooner, since as we discussed earlier, like attracts like.
mhm. It does.
And
Yeah.
is there anything more, Keisha, that you wanted to share that you didn't have a chance to share during today's interview?
Um, Not really, besides how people can like follow and get to know more about me. I think this is
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very thorough. I could keep talking to you. It was like
right.
very deep. Love
We
it.
went
Yes,
deep.
we did. Yeah.
So, and if people are vibing with you, where can they follow and find you? And what are some things coming up that they could check out to work with you?
Yeah. So I like to play online on Instagram and LinkedIn. So Instagram at Striking Statements. You can find me there. And Instagram Keasha Lee. But yeah, you'll find more fun stuff on I said LinkedIn and Instagram. So strikingstatements.com, you can go. I have a masterclass called the Embody Your Message. It's a 3-part video series, free, where I go through the steps of how to really elevate and enhance your messaging. And the videos are no longer than 10 minutes and they're delivered straight to your inbox. And it's a really great introduction to my style. You get some downloads and exercises. So yeah, also on the site, you can see lots of my coaching packages. And yeah, I would love to connect with you should you feel compelled.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that we connected in real life and now we're connecting online. And I love all the content you're putting out there, Keisha. So I will be following and checking that out as well. Number two, I wanted to mention, if you are vibing with me, anyone present or in the future, I'm offering a free love session this Friday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, because I know some of y'all haven't been able to make it during the day. And we're going to go deeper into wellness steps that you can take to call in love, health, wealth, heal. I'm going to do some breath work and go even deeper. It's just an opportunity to authentically connect. I know even having Keisha and me right here on this live call, this has been wonderful and beautiful. And that's why I've been doing this every single week for y'all. And this is my last love session before I depart for Costa Rica later this month. Right on my calendar right now, so I'm really excited. I'm gonna take y'all with me, and I'm meeting with my people while I'm down there. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Keisha, for your time, your presence, your energy, and I hope that you all have an amazing day. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please write a review. We'd love to hear from you. And if you are on social media, just write your questions, comments below in the comments. Keisha and I will get back to you. And I hope that you have a fabulous day as you make your striking statements and live your authenticity. Thank you
Mm.
all so much. Peace, love, and health. Bye bye.